Give everybody a couple of minutes to join here, but for the people who are watching this after it's been recorded, I want to thank you and, of course, ask you to subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. It is during the workday, and I don't normally do the workday streams, so I understand completely. Kind of a new thing for everybody here. I'll go ahead and get things started. Hopefully, we'll have some folks join here. So I recently went on my first trip to Pensacola, Florida. I have not been to the coast since I was a kid. There was one work trip that I went to. Actually, went to Corpus Christi, but I saw the beach from afar. But that was it. I didn't go on the beach. I've never been saltwater fishing, so I was excited and a little concerned. My girlfriend and I went down for Labor Day weekend with her kids, and her dad has a place on the intercoastal waterway down in Pensacola. So I got to try my hand at saltwater fishing for the first time. And I'm sure you can understand. I was scared. I was scared of salt water. I've used freshwater gear all my life. I know that salt water is highly corrosive, and was afraid to take my good stuff down there. Um, so the first thing I did was I talked to uh, some friends who fished in saltwater, and Danny Stone specifically was very helpful to me. Um, and I wanted to get a guide while I was down there. I mean, I wanted to go deep sea fishing, but the charters are expensive. And I honestly didn't know what I was going to get myself into. Uh, and I was supposed to go down to Gulf Shores a couple of years ago, uh, but a hurricane hit and the place we were going to stay had gotten damaged. So we went elsewhere. So I went ahead and hired a guide. I wanted a beach fishing guide, which to me has always sounded strange. Hire somebody to stand on the beach and show you how to fish, but I found a great guide down there. Southern Roots is the name of it. I'll have another video where I'll have more information about them. But it was $125 for 5 hours of beach fishing and included up to two people, which was awesome. We both got to go. And um, yeah, she's been to the beach, obviously, several times, many times in her life. But this was my first time as an adult. And I wanted to get a guide so I could just kind of get a feel for things. Um, it was great because he provided all the equipment, all the bait, um, knew the area, etc. And it was great. We met at a public access area down there and went fishing. He had six rods. I think he had 8 foot, 12 foot, and 10 foot rods, I believe. And we used shrimp for bait, and of course the fish bites. And I didn't know what I was going to catch. I didn't know what to expect. Saltwater fishing has always scared me because there are so many fish out there in the saltwater. Um, I wouldn't know what I was catching, and it was good to have a guide that knew the local limits and that kind of thing because it does change from area to area. And of course, that area is not far from the Alabama border, and Alabama has different rules. So the goal was to catch pompano because everything I see on YouTube about beach fishing in that area is pompano, pompano, pompano. And I was a little disappointed when I realized that the state limit or the limit for that area at least is six pompano, and they don't get terribly big. The minimum length is, I believe, 11 inches to the fork. I don't think I've ever fished for anything that you measured to the fork. It was always, pinch the tail and see how long it is. Um, we didn't catch any pompano on that trip with the beach guide. Um, Caught a couple of hardhead catfish. Caught a permit, which I Thought it was a pompano, but he showed me the differences. The permit has like a longer anal fin and I think a little longer dorsal fin as well. But it's a smooth skin fish. Mm, they're shaped very similar, etc. Um, Ashley caught a bluefin. No, sorry, not a bluefin, a bluefish. And to me, it looked like a largemouth bass, like a spotted bass, but with none of the markings down the side, more of a plain looking fish down the side. And one of the things that Danny Stone was nice enough to tell me is don't lip it. Whatever it is, don't lip it unless you know for sure it doesn't have teeth. And the guide showed me the teeth on this thing, and you had to move the lips up a little bit, but boy, did it have a couple of rows of teeth. Um, Ashley actually outfished me. She got one more than I did. I think she had three and I had two. Um, and the hardhead catfish to me looked like small channel cats without the any spots in the coloration. Um, but the guide and Ashley were talking about jellyfish, and that became very important a day later. Um, this kind of nice. We went down to one of the state parks there by a boat, and one side was the intercoastal waterway, and the other side was the Gulf. So we went over to the Gulf, and I saw this thing in the water that just looked like a purple ring, about I don't know 8 inches in diameter, maybe a little larger. And I just thought it was trash because I'd never seen a jellyfish in real life. And I went to grab it to see what it was, and I touched it and I immediately knew it was a jellyfish. And like I say, my guide and my girlfriend had talked about jellyfish steaks and the tentacles on them and all that kind of stuff. And while I never saw the tentacles, as soon as I touched it, I realized this is not something I wanted. Now, real time, hello, John Parker. It's good to see you, my friend. And yes, you could outfish me. Well, maybe. We'll talk about it sometime. But yes, I can't fish worth a lick. So I avoided a jellyfish sting, and we went back over the other side, back to the intercoastal side, and just hanging out, goofing off, and having fun with the kids. And Ashley actually got stung. It looked like a bunch of little sweat bee stings on her side, and she knew immediately what it was, and because she's been there, done that. And I saw it there as well. Hey, Danny Stone Outdoors. Good to see you, brother. Have fun at work. Thank you for joining them. Um, and fortunately, her parents had some vinegar on board, and she said that relieved the pain really quickly. Uh, and I saw that jellyfish. Jellyfish are just absolutely beautiful. This one had like a pinkish purple, and it looked like a four-leaf clover in the center of it. Just the outline, everything is outlined on the jellyfish. It's not like solid. It's just like a faint little marking of the four-leaf clover, roughly. And I wanted so bad to grab it. Um, of course, I knew better. Also wanted to, you know, do some damage to it because it had hurt her. But jellyfish, I think they have like no brain and all that kind of stuff, and their existence is really weird to me. And they don't have any control of where they go. The water takes them. So anyway, going back to the guide part of the trip. Uh, it was real helpful. Basically, showed me the rigs, and I'd already looked at pompano rigs, and I'd made some pompano rigs, and they're really. I was very surprised by the size of the little floats that they use. I mean, they're about the size of a Tylenol pill, the capsule or caplet or whatever they're called, and but they do just enough. Um, for anybody that's never been down there, we definitely suggest taking some. It depends on if you're going to fish the Gulf or the Intercoastal. The Intercoastal has basically a barrier to it, a natural barrier for most parts of it. Um, so you don't have nearly the amount of current or waves. So, in the intercoastal, an ounce or two would be enough. Out on the Gulf, we were using 4 ounce and probably could have gone a little higher at some points. But they use pyramid sinkers mostly down there. The Sputniks are very nice. They have uh, um, they're sort of bullet weight shape, but they've got these little metal pins that come out, about four of them, about yay long spikes, and you set them, and then it kind of grips like an anchor. But if you pull it hard enough, then they just kind of break free from the lead and they fold back. And when they come back in, you just reset them. But pyramid sinkers are definitely cheaper and easier to acquire, and all that fun stuff. Retractable wires. There you go. Thanks, Danny. Um, and they're kind of ingenious, but I can't imagine that they're inexpensive either. So, um, if you're headed down there for your first trip, I would suggest getting some 2, 4, maybe even 6 ounce pyramid sinkers, depending on how things are going. How the wind is going, how the tide's going, etc. Um, we did keep the permit. We ate it. It tasted like fish. Her parents had gotten a couple of pounds of grouper as well, and the grouper was of course delicious as well. Um, and then the next morning, I went out on their dock, which is a covered dock, which it's amazing how hard those are to cast from, because you're afraid of hitting everything. And it wasn't my dock. I didn't know what to expect. They had an Adirondack chair that I leaned a couple of rods up against. I had one out that I believe had a live croaker on it, and um, I had two of them out that had live croaker because I caught them right off the dock there. And the first one was a bluefish, so I pulled it out and took some fillets off of it to use for cut bait. And the other one, I was just sitting there talking to her dad and her, and the rod was sitting next to me, and it just my side of the story is that rod just flew out 50 feet before it hit the water. Her dad made it look more like 10 feet, and Ashley said it was kind of somewhere in the middle. But I mean, I didn't hear anything until that rod just whoosh. She went out there in a kayak and with a grappling hook, nice grappling hook, and she caught the lines I had out, but not that one. Her dad said that he'd seen a dolphin earlier. Perhaps that was it. I don't know what it was, but that rod went flying. It was my fault. I didn't have the bait clicker on and it released. I didn't have the drag set low, really low. Um, I was, hoping for my reflexes to work, and it didn't. I lost casting rover, which was no big loss to me because I took it down there as a disposable reel. But it did take an 8 foot casting rod with it, which I'm still kind of hurting over. But oh well. Those had come in like $109. I think I got Abu 7000 with a rod, so it was a really good deal on clearance. And so the reel was worth that. But I put the casting rover on there because I was afraid of what the saltwater would do to my equipment. And that's kind of what happened there. I'm still a little sore. I wanted to see that fish. I wanted to. I also wanted my rod back. Oh well, there you go. Um, anyway, for the fish that I caught off the deck or the dock, um, yeah, I was using number 6 circle hooks and just literally dropping down next to the pylons or the pilings. And I assumed they were croaker. It was one of those when I pulled the fish up and it started croaking. I'm like, I bet I know what that is. And looked it up and it matched close enough. And then later I caught what I thought were croaker, but they were actually pinfish. They remind me a lot of bluegill, small bluegill with big spiky dorsal fins, whole bunch of them. And either way, these things are lively. Both the croaker and the pinfish were very lively. Um, I caught a few more hardhead cats. I did not catch a gaff top sail cat or whatever exact gaff top. I don't know, whatever it's called. I didn't catch one of those. They look similar, but they have a very much longer, I don't know, ornate dorsal fin. Just has a long hair or whatever that goes back. They're really cute, but I didn't catch one. And that was kind of the bulk of the trip, but I learned a lot of things. And one was, I thought I needed surf rods. Um, so went to Walmart and I got three cheap surf combos that were, one ball bearing, spinning reels, and 8 foot rods, and very uh, stiff rods, stiff tip. Um, when you're trying to catch, a couple ounces or so of fish on there, it was interesting. I should have carried an ultralight with me, but I was really afraid of what it was going to do to my system. Or my system, my equipment. I apologize, it's been a long week. And when I go back, I'll definitely take one of those. Two-piece rods are something that I need more of. I've always avoided two-piece rods. I always like the one piece because they're just that much easier. I feel like you don't have that coupling in there that messes with the action or creates a weak point in the rod. But two-piece rods have come a long way since I was a kid, so it's kind of wash. Plus, two-piece rods are much easier to carry places with you. Um, I can't wait to go back. And when I go back, I'm going to carry some of my lighter rods. Um, you do need a fair amount of line, and the lines came from Walmart, or the reels from Walmart came spooled with 20-pound mono, and it was not great mono, but it was mono. Um, and they worked just fine for what I was doing. Um, so, if you're taking your first trip, I would suggest some size 6 hooks for bait. I didn't carry my cast net. I should have. Carry a cast net with you. I was always expecting that down at the coast they would have, a lot more half-inch mesh instead of 3/8 inch. So I figured I'd just buy a cast net down there. And no, they would have 3/8, and um, the bait shop I went to had a 1 inch mesh, but I was really looking for a half-inch or maybe 5/8, 3/4, something in there, um, even to come back home with, because I feel like 3/8 is a little small, but that's what it is. And uh, carry some 1/0 hooks or size one, either one, circle hooks, and then some larger hooks like you'd use for catfishing, size 8, size 9, size 7. I'm sorry, 7/0, 8/0, 9/0 fishes. For fishing with live bait, etc. Because, like I say, these little croakers and the pinfish, they're the perfect size for live bait. Um, Hook them through the lip, etc. I did throw out the head of that bluefish that I caught and had a turtle gnawing on it, but that was about it. It was one of those baits, a donkey bait, as they say. To if I if I would have caught something, it'd have been something good. Uh, Got a good burn while I was out there, but I thought about what I'm going to do next time I go, because clearly I can't just let my equipment sit there and get drug in by something nice. I think what I'm going to do, because it's not my dock, it's not something I can drill into, etc. I think I'm going to just put a board, like a 1x6, um, and just kind of strap it to the poles that go up to hold the roof, and attach some PVC to it, um, much like people do for their freshwater carts. Just upright pieces of PVC screwed into the board. I think that'll help me keep my equipment anyway. And once I lost that first round, I'm like, I can't do this again. I got to figure out something. So I actually tied a rope between the posts, and they're probably 8 feet apart. So tied a rope about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet up, and then went about a foot off the up from the bottom. And the idea was to, have the create little loops in the bottom one, so I could put the butt of the rod in, and if anything was going to pull that over, make it flip over that, it was going to be a big fish. But then, like I say, the knot at the bottom would hopefully keep the rod in place. So I only lost the one combo, three $20 Walmart combos, and one that was worth a good $100. And of course, I lost the $100 one. Oh well, you live, you learn, right? Um, her dad said that speckled trout are what uh, he had bought stuff for, and he offered me, his rigs and stuff. But I've had trout, at least freshwater trout. I was not impressed, and I was looking for something to eat. I was, hoping to fill a cooler full of great fish. And one of the surprises to me was the limits. Like one red drum or redfish between, I don't know, 17 and 28 inches, something like that. Um, the black drum was a fairly low limit. The pompano was, 6 fish limit. The permit, 1 or 2 limit. There's an app called Fish Rules that Danny had told me about, and actually the Florida Wildlife Commission's website actually suggests going with that. And yes, Danny, I had fun, man. It was a blast. I had actually planned to go back fishing after dinner, and once I ate dinner that night, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm tired. It all kind of hit me. Playing in the sun will do that to you too. Um, had a great time. Can't wait to go back. And one of the more daunting things about fishing saltwater is I couldn't find a list of. I wish there was like a list for various areas. This is what you can catch. These are all the fish that are possible. Granted, they've got you get some that are available from surf. You get some that are more, I think they call it inshore, which is offshore but not way offshore. And then you get the offshore. Inshore is like reefs and stuff. Um, so, from the surf, there's, let's see, what were things I was the speckled trout, the redfish, black drum, sheep's head, pompano, permit, of course the hardhead cat, the gassop tails cats, bluefish. Not sure what else I could catch. Um, and that was the scary part to me is, you catch this and there's no pictures of, here's a picture of what you might catch. Like croaker, I could look it up on fish rules, like, oh yeah, that looks like a croaker to me. Um, and the pinfish, once Danny said, hey, watch out for the pinfish because they're named pinfish. And then I looked them and, oh yep, got some of them. And oh yes, whiting. Whiting is another one that I catch out there. And ladyfish is apparently not something you want to eat. It's good bait though. Bluefish, I've gotten. The guide told me that they're very oily fish, and I'm like, well, that sounds good for bait. But as I filleted that one, more Kevorkian style than anything, like it doesn't feel like a really oily fish. And from what Ashley had looked up online, she said actually, people are saying it's good eating fish. So there you go. Um, like I say, they look like, to me, they look like a spotted bass with no, you know, that's kind of washed out and has no markings on it. Um, but definitely not a fish you want to lip. Let's see. So, and maybe Danny can help in the comments here. I don't know what the right equipment would be. You want to have something that can hold a decent amount of reasonably heavy line because you don't know what you're going to catch. You get into one of those red drum and it's gonna take you for a ride. Um, Definitely not something you want to be going out with 4 pound test for. Um, and your leaders in saltwater, because of all the toothy critters, you're going to want a stronger leader than mainline. With catfish, I tend to use very similar sized line, um, between the main line and the leader. Not everybody does. A lot of people use a heavier leader, but I was using the 60-pound leader and 30-pound mono on my bait casters, and then of course the 20-pound mono that came on the spinning rods. Um, for bait fishing, I was using 10-pound test mono, or actually fluorocarbon, with those size 6 hooks. I did actually catch 3 pompano. It's kind of funny because I was like I say just dropping next to the ponds looking for bait fish, and I was waiting for this one to make sure he was good and hooked because those little bait fish will steal your bait real quick. And Danny had told me to get some like magic thread to hold it on, and it wasn't until I was packing up to leave I was looking in my box. I'm like, ah, crap, I forgot to use it. I had it, I just didn't use it. Um, yeah, Danny says he's not using smaller than a 7,000 spinning reel, but he's targeting reds, black drum, sharks, etc. Um, I think the ones I got were probably 5,000 size. Um, and one of the guys' rods. Now it was not fully spooled, but it was weird because I just I was casting it out and I actually spooled the spinning reel. Um, Got down to the knot. And I was like, oh wow. And so one of the things when you're fishing the surf, and again, people who have done this, you're just laughing at me going, yeah, no, that's how it is. They're noob. But for me, it was the first time, and I'm hoping to help other people that are looking to go for their first time. One of the things you need to look for on YouTube is how to read the beach. So you've got where the waves start kind of forming and turning into whitecaps and breaking over. There's when they break over. That's going to be a sandbar. So you've got the beach, you got a trough, you got the first sandbar, you got a trough. You may have multiple sandbars out there. And the guide actually waded out to the first sandbar to cast off one of the rods, just so we'd have a longer one out there. Um, but it was deeper than he was expecting. He got up close to his neck at one point. Hey, animals, good to see you, brother. Yes, that's what I look like. Pretty, ain't I? Um, and yeah, the stiff rods, I'm sure they're great for going a little further out, but I would have rather had my Uncle Lou's rods. Or even I've got some Cast King. They don't make them anymore. I forget what the name of them was, but they were their catfish rod before the Brutus or whatever it is they have now. And yeah, they're more of a medium action, a freshwater medium action. Saltwater medium action is way heavier. But something along those lines, like I said, plus, an ultralight or at least a medium spinning bass rod, which is going to be really limber even compared to the catfish rods I was referring to. Um, the big thing is to have enough line and big enough line for when you're trying to catch the big ones. And, I had I had a what did I have? The Cast King Rover 50, and I also had the Catfish Pro 600 CTS, I believe. That was another rod. I don't like that rail. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't like it. I mean, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. I just don't like it. It has the flip down um, lever, for lack of a better word, for casting. just as the Abu 7000 does. But I don't like that style. I'd rather have the thumb bar or the push button. And your push button doesn't. Your thumb bar only works on the smaller ones anyway. The push button for the anything 6500 size or above. Um, and Danimal's making fun of what I can't catch. Thank you, thank you so much. You're not wrong, but went to the bait shop and they didn't have any live bait. Ended up with frozen whole shrimp, and they worked fine, but they get kind of mushy. I'm sure you can understand. Yeah, Pensacola is it's gorgeous. One thing that I was not expecting coming from Memphis, where everybody drives like nobody's going to catch them because honestly, nobody cares about speeders in Memphis. Well, the police don't seem to pull over a lot of speeders, I should say. People just going, taking their own sweet time. Um, you know, the traffic, of course, for the weekend was heavier with people going down to the beach for the long weekend. But the locals just seem to they're going to go whatever speed they want, lower than the speed limit. Hey, Gray Wolf, good to see you, brother. Um, so that was kind of surprising to me. I was also worried that the hurricane that had come through that it hit further south in Florida, but I was afraid it would dirty up the water and make everything make the sight feeders not as active. But the water was really fairly clear and it was beautiful down there, just beautiful, except for the jellyfish. They're beautiful creatures, but you know, um, had a real frustration with Walmart. They had some of their saltwater reels, the Ozark trails, on clearance, and it would say that they're at the store, and you would I'd put them in my cart and tell them do a pickup order, and then they'd tell me nope, they don't have those reels. Actually, went to the one that told me they didn't have the reels, and they were on the shelf for $60 instead of 16. Thank you, Danny. Have fun at work, brother. Um, and it was outright frustrating. And yeah, sorry, folks. I just realized that I said it was going to be an open mic, and I have not posted the link. Hey, have a link. That's my mistake. Absolutely my mistake. Um, as you know, I don't StreamYard a lot, but there we go. And all in all, it was a really wonderful experience. Um, except for like I say, Walmart really ticked me off on something like they're on the shelf, and I showed it to the lady that worked at the park. Oh, we don't price match. I'm like, I didn't even ask you to price match. I'm just asking you to fulfill the order that you said didn't wasn't here. And there you go. Is what it is. The fear of the unknown, like I said, was the biggest drawback I had, and I would wrongly urge anyone that is going there for the first time to get a beach guide like I did. I had contacted one of the beach guides there, and he was over $100 an hour, and I'm like, for that kind of money, there better be a boat involved. So I was real happy with finding this other guide from. Uh, no, I can't remember the name of it. Southern Grown, something like that. But Southern Roots, sorry. And Jeremy was a great guide, very knowledgeable. I was not expecting a lot for, you know, what worked out to be $25 an hour. I'm like, paid somebody $25 an hour. That's not really great money. But he had drinks available and had the bait, and of course, provided all the equipment. Like I said, it's a deal. Just to have somebody's, be using somebody else's equipment and the knowledge they have, and just making sure I was doing things right. Um, and yeah, when he first started off, that they cast everything out, and they were. It was kind of like what you would expect, I guess, taking a kid fishing. You know, oh well, here this one's going off. Go get that one. Um, which was exactly what I wanted. I mean, but he didn't have any problems with me using the equipment, casting it out. Um, I even tried going closer to shore because there was some, I don't know what bait fish there were there, but something was running through and popping some, and so I was trying to get a little closer, put one really shallow actually, and it was a really good experience. Um, I learned I learned the confidence. That was the big thing. I wasn't confident about what I was going to be doing out there, and having that level of confidence. Um, and one thing Danny told me that I had seen on the pompano rigs is you really want to have a bead to protect. It's not really so much as to protect your knot. I mean, it is to protect your knot, but it's also to protect your line from the whatever's going to bite things. Because a lot of the fish down there have teeth. They're not they're not fun to play with. They're fun to catch. Um, I'm still a little hurt over that losing my that one rig, but I'll get over it sooner or later. And anyway, I just wanted to share my trip with everybody. Give you a little bit about what to expect. Um, I will talk about Timu for a moment. If you've never used Timu, don't. Please don't. You'll save a whole lot of money by not using Timu. Um, but these little, like, I mean, the floats. Actually, let me grab one here. The floats are incredibly small. Now, mine are actually smaller than what a lot of them are, but that's the float. It does I mean, it looks like a capsule pill. Um, and you put the weight on the bottom, um, and then you have basically a Kentucky rig above it, double hook rig, and each one has its own little float on it, so that way it floats the bait out. And out on the Gulf, it wasn't such a big deal, but on the intercoastal, there was a lot of grass, a lot of seagrass. Some of it was actually growing in the sand, and some of it was just dead, covering the bottom. So you want to get that bait up off the bottom. And for the when I was out with live bait, I was actually using Carolina rigs because I figured the fish are going to do what they're going to do anyway, um, and that way it gave them a little leash of their own. And trying to think if there's anything else super spectacular. I didn't check out any of the local restaurants and stuff. I was really expecting to, I was hoping to, but um, Ashley's mom and dad, or mom specifically, she kept us fed all the time. Great food. They've lived in Louisiana for a long time, and so I'm looking forward to going to Louisiana to see them and trying out some of the Cajun stuff down there. Because while she's not, while she wasn't born Cajun, she's been in the area down there for a long time. They're down uh, about an hour outside of New Orleans on the coast down there, and or the coastal, I should say. Yeah, so there you have it. That's kind of my trip in a nutshell. Uh, I realize it's a work day and a lot of people are, working. So I understand we didn't have a lot of participation today, and that's okay. I really appreciate everybody joining. And I did want to talk about my new hat here. It's the River Cats tackle. I won that on, I believe, Muskrat's live stream, and it's nice to get. I mean, a nice hat. Um, it's got the Velcro closure in the back, not the little snap. Heavyweight hat. Got great graphics on it. Just a pretty hat, and It was my favorite price, which is free. So you really can't argue with that either. But I wanted to say thanks to everybody for joining. And I look forward to seeing you guys more in the future and appreciate your time. Yeah, see, Danny says you're his brother, man. You're his namesake brother. There you go. Dan loves you. Danny loves Dan. Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.